sunlight for your computer keyboard.
It's a cover.
Wow.
Oh, I'm gonna shut this because it's clearing really bad.
Why don't we go into the model room where it's got sunlight? Oh. Oh. Who's on? Nobody yet.
You want to sit in this chair? Or you want to bring that other chair over?
Did you find your cockroach?
No, I stole Stephanie's.
Oh.
We found it.
Hey.
They're gonna be a little surprised.
Hopefully it was the health department. Or wasn't the
Right.
health department.
Okay, so then I can go live on Facebook.
See, it still isn't sending.
Admit it.
It's all over my phone.
Hello. Hello. Make sure everybody can hear us.
Can you hear us?
I don't think so.
Had to make a few adjustments on this end.
Hi.
I'm
Hi,
Amanda.
Hi.
nice to meet you, Amanda. Allison, you said?
I'm sorry, what?
You said your name is Allison?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm Burl. And I'm doing the SBA disaster assistance part of
Oh, perfect.
Okay.
the team.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi.
Rachel?
We're just kind of introducing ourselves as everybody jumps on.
I don't know if I have a way to actually change my name label. I think it's related to the email maybe. But anyway,
Oh, I don't know.
It's-
I'm not
it
sure.
shows BE, and I would just add my full first name if I had, you know, the alternative.
Right.
Oh, got it. What was your first name again? It cut out.
It's Burl, B-U-R-L.
All right. Very
So other than that, no biggie.
Perfect.
It looks like someone else from Stars and Stripes. Michelle is on.
Hey
There.
there.
Hi, Michelle.
Hello. My name's Michelle Kane, and I'm the director of the SDCEO, the Women's Business Center. So we are an SBA resource partner. We're located out in Spearfish, but we cover the whole state. So yeah, just glad to be here.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you for joining. We really
Great.
appreciate
Nice
it.
to meet you.
Hey, Burl. You too. Yeah, happy to be here. This has been kind of an ongoing nonstop Zoom-a-thon, right?
I know. It's like,
Rather,
if anybody didn't know what Zoom was a week ago, everybody knows what it is.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
Exactly.
You are so right. So glad to be here.
still at the stage of know of, not necessarily know it yet.
Right, exactly. We know how to join.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Right.
Rachel, you're all fancy. You have your name up in the corner. You're a pro at it.
This is actually a completely virtual background. Didn't want to show y'all my bedroom.
Oh, my
Okay,
gosh.
so Rachel,
Yeah.
that is a fantastic idea. I'm totally going to be borrowing that and put our logo up there and do
Oh,
that,
yeah,
so you guys don't have to
if
see
you
my
just
living
use,
room here. Yeah.
Awesome.
If you just use a full resolution, so like a. Sorry, one sec. Switch to
Lost her.
headphones.
She went virtually disappearing.
See if it works.
Oh, sorry. That was you. Should I go live in the room?
There we go.
And she got her head.
So if you just do a full 1920 by 1080 background and then just throw some text on it, you can set it up as your background, and then you actually have to make it not mirror your face, so it's going to look really weird to you, your own one, but
Oh,
otherwise your text would be backwards.
Ah. Nice.
That's a really great idea.
Yes.
Good job.
Yeah, it is. There, I'm just waiting for Jamie to hop on.
Is it,
Oh, go ahead.
Rachel, is that your new COVID, excuse me, COVID-19 entrepreneurial thrust into the new world of virtual reality?
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I
Yours?
definitely got it off of Facebook. Somebody posted from one of my friend groups that they've been using virtual backgrounds for years because they work remotely. And I stole it from them.
Oh, wow.
Nice. Nice.
So
Good. I tried to call Jamie earlier and I didn't get an answer. I'm assuming she said she had back-to-back meetings all day today. Let's see here.
I wonder if she can have Bryson sit in.
What was that?
I wonder if she's going to have Bryson sit in for her,
Delbert Carr.
deputy.
We have one more person coming on. Up there. Hello.
Hi.
Good morning, afternoon.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Oh, I like your game board in the background.
Yeah, it's a family relic.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Love it. Which business are you with, Delbert?
I'm with Score. I'm the
Oh,
district
awesome.
director. I'm with Score. I'm the district director for North and South Dakota.
Oh, perfect. Cool. Well,
No.
thank you.
I also co-chair the Fargo chapter.
Oh, cool. District director. There. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Jamie.
Well, you got dressed up. Where'd you go today, Jamie?
There's a bunch of people hopping on here. 1 second.
Yeah, there we go.
Here we go. Hi, Jamie.
Hi there. How is everyone doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. We are, we keep saying we're swimming to shore, but they keep moving the shore. So we got to have some humor during this so we can all get through this together. But
Well, due to this meeting, I actually showered today. So
Oh.
that was fun.
congrats.
I know I keep
People
telling
appreciate
them,
that.
hey, be ready for anything.
Right.
Be ready for that video webinar.
I'm just curious as to how many people's tops match their bottoms because I'm wearing gym
Right.
bottoms right now.
Well, for a lot of years, I was in, when I was in the military, I was a broadcaster. And so I usually had camouflage, outfit on during most of the day. But then I did part of the time I did the evening news and so on TV. And so we would quickly run and get our dress screens on. So the bottom was camouflage with combat boots and the top was, it was the nice, army greens, the dress greens. So we just kind of laughed, at that. So I anticipate a lot of people are in bunny slippers and sweats or, Bermuda shorts on the bottom.
Yes.
Hopefully at least underwear are on, right?
Oh, yeah. Gotta have those on.
We're so glad to be able to talk with you right now. And thanks so much for reaching out, and
Absolutely. Thank you
really
guys
wanna
for
talk
doing
with
this with
you and
us.
tell you about some of the resources that are there, not just all the funding, the different disaster funding, but also we've got some of our experts on too from our resource partner network that are absolutely available to you, they're available through phone, through email, through video conferences like this. They can help businesses go over, wherever they're at in their decision cycle right now and determining what the best way forward is, not just with disaster assistance, but other products that we have too, and loan products or just parts of their decision cycle. Maybe a lot of people actually are in a growth cycle right now. So, even within disaster, it's just brought them this unexpected revenue, or also they've been able to morph in their business and they've been able to ideate and start making different widgets than they were before or whatever. But there are a lot of businesses that actually are in despair right now too. So we want to address all that today. But I'm Jamie Wood. I'm the district director for the U.S. Small Business Administration. And my office is here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I'm actually in the office today. We have a team of 6 employees that cover the state of South Dakota, and most of them are on telework capacity right now here in the Sioux Falls area, but also we have an employee out in Rapid City that's permanently based out there. So even though we are mostly on telework capacity, we are cooking with gas, and we have been working basically 24/7 for the last 3 weeks. So lots of weekend work and constant contact with the small businesses, with the ecosystem as far as chambers, mayoral offices, and economic development offices. Also, we're working really closely, you know, with the lenders and with the just across the whole gamut, from small business all the way up to the national, you know, federal government. So really answering that question. But I would love to kick this off with an introduction first and a thank you to Del Carver from SCORE. He's been a great partner with us, and while you're providing the Zoom capability right now, Del has been able to provide us a lot of that Zoom capability throughout the week, and we've been doing just many webinars with, I think at this point we've talked to thousands of bankers across South Dakota to get them ready for PPP. And so Del's going to talk about some of the resources that they have. I see that Michelle Kane is on from our South Dakota CEO Women's Business Center, and Michelle is located out in the Rapid City area. She's in Spearfish actually, but she's serving across the state too. We'll have her also talk with you. I've invited some of our other partners, the SBDC, Small Business Development Center. I don't see Mark on video, although he may be on one of the calls too, and hopefully he'll be able to join in too. And the SBDC has a broad network across. I just wanted to give a shout out to our partners that are on their South Dakota resources that serve here, you know, this area in South Dakota, even though they're doing it virtually right now. And we'll get into an individual explanation from each one of them because we want to make sure that they're highlighted. But also I want to give a special call out to Burl Kelton. Burl, hello, hope you're doing great. Burl is our disaster assistance specialist that's assigned right now to South Dakota. And so he's not in South Dakota, but he is serving us and doing such a top-notch job of doing that. So Burl is going to talk us through some of the EIDL, the Emergency Injury Disaster Loan response for SBA, and then we can go back over into the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, and we can talk to more about that. I have some of my teammates on too. I've got Bryson Patterson, he's my deputy here, and then Marcella Hurley, and we might have Michelle Ahrens on the line too. And so we wanted to make sure you feel like there's a full, you know, this whole team around you that's here to help. So let's kick it off with Burl telling us a little bit about that EIDL program and answering any questions you might have. Hey, Burl.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I am calling from Sacramento, California. The disaster side handles all the states west of the Mississippi, plus Hawaii and Samoa and the Eastern Territories. We've been doing that for about 50 years. This is probably the biggest event that we have been able to respond to as a whole. But the disaster program for COVID is divided into 2 portions. The first is the emergency assistance that you've probably heard about that was established by the CARES Act. And that is a short-term $10,000 available for payroll expenses and some operating expenses for established businesses that were in business January 31, and then forward from there. So that emergency assistance is also part of the regular SBA economic injury disaster loan. And the application site is the same. You go through the same process to get access to both. But the long-term program is up to $2 million, depending on the amount of economic injury. It is 3.75 interest rate, simple annual for business, 2.75 for private non. And the term is up to 30 years, depending on basically the business cash flow and debt load, that sort of thing. But we actually underwrite, fund, and service the loans on disaster side separately from the regular SBA part of the agency and directly from the U.S. Treasury. So we continue to service the loans on the disaster side for the length of the term that the business has borrowed from us. The basic issues are: were you in business January 31? Are you continuing in business? Did you have economic injury loss during that time? And then we ask you to project out 6 months as well for the first phase. The first phase, disbursements can be up to $500,000 if that's appropriate. And then phase 2, we look at more financial documents from the business, and we can go up to that $2 million if necessary. It is designed to be a recovery type of a loan, so we're not going to fund new buildings, new equipment, unless it's a replacement or some equipment. All kinds of operating expenses that go into keeping a business going during the term of this particular disaster. Application can run up as far as the end of the year, but we urge businesses to get started now, because there's no fees, there's no cost, no prepayment penalty, and you're able to see how much you're eligible for. And at that point, you tell us whether you need all or a part of it, or whether you'd like to defer the disbursement to sometime in the future within the next 6 months or so. So it's really a great toolbox item to have in a recovery, especially when things are changing so fast. Now, just over this last weekend, we were notified by the administrator that churches on the religious side can apply, as well as church, private, nonprofit social services like childcare, elder care, and other kinds of services. So we've never done that before, but now churches as an organization can apply. And we still look at all of the ways that we can help businesses that way. So real briefly, that's the way it is in a nutshell. We look at every application on a case-by-case basis as far as credit, cash flow, debt load, what the need is, what losses you've had, how you plan to recover. For example, if you need to, within the next 6 months, make a major marketing campaign in order to get your customers back, and we'll look at that as part of your injury or recovery to be able to keep the business continuing and operating. So it's really important to not be afraid to make application, get in the process. Let us help you if we can. And as things change, then we can also adjust to those changes to help you in your business. So I think that's probably about enough to start with, to chew on. And if you have questions, we can talk about those.
Awesome.
Do you have some specific questions about the EIDL application, or the how to get the EIDL advance, and also anything about what the EIDL, any more details about what EIDL can be used for operational costs?
So I do have a
Okay.
follow-up question. You're referring to churches specifically. Nonprofits were eligible for this before, correct?
That's right. Private nonprofits that did not perform a governmental type of service. Those were excluded.
Okay.
But
But now
for example,
our church preschools and things like that can apply for it now.
and the church organization.
Oh, okay,
So-
okay. And that's
so
the
previous-
EIDL one?
EIDL, but also
The-
PPP. Yeah, which we'll
Okay.
get into in
Yeah.
a minute. Yep. So
So-
before, only a certain amounts of nonprofits were eligible for it, but now more are, including the addition of the church, the different churches. Yep.
Independent contractors can also apply. So if you're a sole, or if you're a contractor to another business as an independent, you can also apply. And we'll look at that as a way to help you out.
Thank you.
Who had a-
Sorry, I had a
Get
question
back.
with the, sorry, I have a
Okay.
frog in my throat. So, my name is Ellison Cottrere, and this is Amanda Christofferson. We're both business owners in Brandon. And then Rachel Poland is with our Brandon Valley Chamber of Commerce. I had a question regarding the EIDL loan. Do you know, have they set a time frame for approval and disbursement yet?
Well, there's two questions there. One is the emergency advance. The turnaround time target is 2 to 3 days. The long-term idle, it's longer. We were trying to say 2 to 3 weeks, but it just really depends on how complex the business is, how much information we need to get to be able to make the decision. And I can't say what that would be, maybe 4 weeks, depending on more complex situations.
So is there two separate loans that people need to apply for? The emergency advance and another one?
The way that it works is that the disaster assistance handles both the emergency advance and the long-term idle. The regular SBA side of the house handles the CARES Act PPP loans, local commercial lenders.
Okay.
The emergency advance, now, initially it was always being said that it would be $10,000, but it actually is based on how many employees you have, correct?
Right. The term was max up to 10,000,
Up to,
depending
okay.
on employees. And that can be converted to a grant if you follow all the requirements for the use of the money. So you need to either use it for payroll personnel costs or operating expenses.
Okay.
And it's for a particular period of time since the CARES Act went into place. So you can get more detail on the site in your application. And of course, it's voluntary. So, if you decide you don't want to use it, you don't have to. But if you use it, then we don't duplicate the funds that were used under that plan, either in the PPP loan or the long-term loan.
Okay.
So there's no duplication of funding that way.
So when it comes to, I know with the PPP that we're going to discuss that a little bit later, but I know with that, they are very specific on what it has to be spent on, down like to the percentages and everything. Do you recommend people have like a separate bank account for the money that they get from the SBA and that they get for the PPP, so that way it can be tracked a little bit differently, or does that not really matter?
We've actually,
Whatever makes
go ahead, Burl.
whatever makes you more comfortable. Some businesses have a finance or an accounting system that they can clearly delineate the monies that go back and forth. If it's more comfortable to you to set up another account for these funds, I would encourage that. Just for your protection in terms of, as time goes on and things change, you want to clearly know where that money is.
Okay.
Yeah, and for the, just a little clarity on, for that PPP program, that Paycheck Protection Program, so that has specific parameters on how it gets used, and for it to be able to, and it's meant for an 8-week window, and when people go back after that 8-week window is completed and they've exhausted their funds, that's when they ask their lender for forgiveness on that loan, 100% forgiveness. And to be able to do that, they have to prove that their funds were used, within those parameters. So to Burl's point, and it is a great question that you asked, a lot of bankers actually for that PPP are requiring people to open up another account, but not all the bankers are. But the reason why is really to protect and help the small businesses so that those funds don't get commingled with other funds. And it's very easy to delineate how that was spent and to be able to make the case when you're asking for forgiveness at the end, how it was spent. So
That makes sense.
Yeah, if the bank requires it, that's certainly important for you to do.
Okay.
Hey,
Some of the
Burl.
things that,
Can I ask a quick question on that? Hey, I already met everyone earlier because I was early. Michelle Kane, SD CEO, the Women's Business Center. I'm talking to a lot of women with very small businesses. They may be solos, independent, and maybe they don't need a full $10,000, but we're still recommending that they apply for the EIDL loan because there's really nothing to lose, right? I mean, at least to go through that process if that is a fit for their business. And I'm just curious to hear what you think about that.
well, sure, because some of that emergency advance can be used for operating expenses.
Right, right. So it's not that someone needs to have, needs $10,000. It could be that, perhaps $5,000, perhaps $3,000 could, help them bridge that. So I think sometimes, women are hearing, it's like, oh, $10,000, I don't need that much, but I could use, this. So just to, have the team here. And when you're speaking with other, small business owners, just letting them know that that is a possibility. Just with the business owners here and with the chamber. Yeah.
The advance is going to be predicated on how many employees that you have.
Right.
So, but the regular long-term EIDL is definitely a go. And what happens is you go into the portal and you fill out the first part of the information, and you're giving a checkbox opportunity to say, I want consideration on the advance. Otherwise, it continues through into the regular EIDL application. So they really need to do that, need to fill out.
Oh, I just had a question. So I own a small business, but I also own a building that houses 5 other small businesses. So could I apply as the building owner in the event that my tenants aren't able to pay their rent, or while they're waiting for this money to come through? Would I be able to apply for an EIDL?
Yes, you would for the long-term EIDL.
Okay.
Are the two businesses separate entities?
Correct. I filed
Okay,
for the short-term one for our coffee shop, but I wasn't aware if I could do one for the building since all my tenants are also applying for them. But I just want to be safe, in case for some reason they're denied or for some reason they use that money for something else. So that was why I was asking.
So that actually, Burl, because that has come up quite a bit over the past couple days, this whole weekend, actually, we received a lot of questions about it. Can a business owner that has many different types of businesses apply for EIDL in different ways, or is it one loan and they're projecting all of their businesses in it? Can you provide clarification for that, please?
I'm trying to
Sorry. Yeah.
and think of the simplest way. The loans would be to the entity depending on how the business is set up. So you might have the same owner to multiple entities, and the loans would be in the name of the entities, even though it's the same. And what we do is combine those that are related, and we work them together. So the loan fund might be separated by business, but we would have it tied back to the actual owner of the business or the members of the business. And in phase 1, it's not as detailed and not as important as phase 2. Phase 2, we're going to start looking closer at those who have 20% ownership interest in a business, or a separate business that has 50% ownership in another business. But initially going into it, phase 1, we're not taking that close a look at it. But we do need to know that a business is owned by more than one person or other business with 20% or more ownership participation.
And we have 3 businesses total. The coffee shop is 100% my husband. Our building is 50-50. And then
Right.
I own an antique store where we have a 5149. So I'm not doing anything with the antique store in relation to these loans or anything because it's an inactive business right now. So it's not incurring any debt. But with the coffee shop, I did all the paperwork in his name. I was just wondering with the building. So then the building, for me to do an idle, we would both have to fill out the paperwork, right?
If you're both owners, right.
Okay, cool. Thank you for clarifying that. That was one of my biggest questions.
Glad to. So it sounds complicated, but it really isn't, because what you're doing is applying in the name of the business, whatever. If it's a corporation, if it's an LLC or a S corp, you're applying in the name of the corporation. You just happen to be the owner.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
And we really are encouraging businesses to get these loans in place. Just because you apply for them does not mean that you have to accept the money. Because where a business is right now in their cycle, I mean, they might be being crushed, by this disaster, or they might be doing okay. And their real pain is going to happen, later on, this in a few weeks or months when we kick off summer. And so we really just say, get it in place right now. And if you don't use the money, you can turn it back with no prepayment penalties. So this is, we keep hearing the word unprecedented, but it's true. This is unique and new. We've never been down this road before with these SBA products that we're working in concert with the Department of Treasury and the White House. And never before have they been so small business friendly, where you actually are going to get portions of them that will be forgiven, just so you can be able to pay your employees and also your other operational expenses. I mean, our leadership in DC realizes, and we learn lessons, from the Great Depression, for instance, and other recessions that we've had since then. It's a lot less expensive to keep people on your payrolls now. That's why they're doing these incentivized loans, than it is to put people on employment and then have to ramp back up again. So we're trying to avoid that, so that when we do get through COVID-19 response, we can hit the ground running and, just pick right back up. So, and having staff in place is important. So.
I think for me, for my business, the one thing that I keep hearing that's made me not apply for EIDL is that if I plan to do CARES, you can't do EIDL. So I'm like, well, if I apply for EIDL, is that going to screw up CARES? It's just like, I've been hearing so many things that have made me worse.
Yeah, and part of that, we're right there with you. This information is changing by the day because, we keep using the analogy, we're building the airplane as we're flying it, or building the ship as we're sailing it, and we really are. I mean, of this magnitude, this national disaster response, we rolled it out now because it really has, it's been, less than 2 weeks. It's been about 10 days. Or 3 weeks, 3 weeks for that, but less than 2 weeks for the CARES Act, right?
Right.
So we have responded in this incredible way with EIDL and with the Payment Protection Program with the CARES Act, and a lot of the policy has morphed as we've gotten questions from the local level. As businesses and lenders have asked questions, and it's helped to shape the policy, and it's helped to expand the policy in a lot of ways, like the nonprofits we mentioned earlier, where now churches are a part of it, but a few days ago they weren't. So we're just really we're here in it with you, and we're learning about this as we go and getting better and better at it. So these loans are starting to pop now. The applications are getting in there. They're starting to be funded. So small businesses across the United States, I don't have the numbers here for South Dakota, but across the United States, I mean, there's a lot of folks that, including some here in South Dakota, that are starting to get access to these funds, whether they're EIDL or PPP or both, because you can apply for both actually. And that gets back to that, policy point of hearing information that you couldn't apply for, you could only apply for one or the other. Actually, you can apply for both, but the real sticking point is you just can't use the same types of funds for the same thing at the same time. So do you have anything else to offer on that, Burl, or does anyone else have any questions for Burl? And then we'll jump over into the PPP.
One
I
last,
think,
Just wanted to,
oh, sorry. Is there any origination fees with the EIDL or any of that stuff? Or any
No,
fee period?
the only thing that might be involved in the long-term idle would be a UC1 filing later on. In
Okay,
phase two, there's going to be opportunity for more money. There are going to be requirements for more detailed information, more documentation.
okay.
And if there's collateral involved, then it would require UCC1 filing. That would be the only thing, as far as we know now, involve a fee or a cost.
Okay.
There was one other thing that Jamie had asked earlier about what kinds of things can the idle be used for. And what we do is look at operating expenses, whatever it takes to keep the doors open and the lights on, your employees paid, and your inventory equipment payments made, and whatever you need in order to operate the business. Now, for disaster assistance, we're looking at it in terms of recovery. We're not talking about building new buildings, adding new equipment, or anything like that, but it's what it takes to keep you operating, as it were, the day before the declaration. So usually that's what we say when we go out on a natural disaster. Whatever you were earning, whatever you had in terms of your business operation, a building, equipment, vehicles, all of that, in a natural disaster, as it were, the day before the event. That's what we look at. Now in COVID, it's, as it were, starting January 31, and it's operating expenses because it's idle economic injury only, and that sort of thing.
Cool. Thank you so much, Pearl.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to follow up on the overlap between the funds and what you can and can't apply for at the same time. So you can apply for all of these at the same time. You just can't use the funds for the same projects and expenses, correct?
Right. Congress and taxpayers do not like us giving money for the same thing, for the same amount, at the same time from federal programs. So we don't duplicate what's coming from another similar program or another applicable program to help out.
But one of the things that's a consideration that's kind of nice for small businesses right now is many businesses, they want to try to pay their personnel. And oh, by the way, and as we move into the discussion with PPP, when you're using that for your payroll, you have a chance to use the idle for other operational expenses like Burl was talking about. So maybe supply chain, for instance. So, and there's many examples for this, but we've had numerous calls from small businesses who are desperately seeking and not bringing in revenue, and they're desperately seeking to keep their employees on, but also to pay their receipts that are due for supplies that they may have ordered last fall that just came in, and now they have to pay for those, right? So they're trying to sustain that, and they realize that they're all part of this greater ecosystem too, and everybody needs to be paid. So those loans can be used for that, and they can complement each other. Any other questions while we move into okay. So for the Paycheck Protection Program, then I'm actually going to leverage Bryson to, I showcase Bryson too here and Marcella to talk about how those are being used, and then also what the lenders are, so that and I think Marcella will do a great job of providing kind of what that lender that lender point of view is right now. But for Bryson, if you don't mind, go ahead and give an overview real quick of the P3 program and kind of where we're at with it, and then we'll have Marcella talk about what some of the lenders are looking for. I'm going to go ahead and type into the chat that Department of Treasury website that has many great resources for you to take a look at, and then we're going to go into our individual resource partners that are online so that they can tell you about what they're offering that you can leverage right now. So Bryson?
Great. Thanks, Jamie. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Good. All right. The Paycheck Protection Program became law a week ago Friday, so it's been about 10 days now as part of the CARES Act. SBA was able to get that launched a week later on just this past Friday. So lenders have been taking applications for that program. And it's open both to existing SBA lenders as well as other regulated banks. So it's pretty broad in that respect. And basically, the idea behind this program is to provide 2 months of payroll as a forgivable loan to any business that's able to keep their employees on board or bring them back. And so you can apply at your bank for this loan. And again, so basically what they do is it's a look back. And so you look at your past 12 months of employment and your payroll, get an average of your monthly, multiply that by 2.5. 2.5, that's 2 months plus an extra 25% that you can use for costs like rent, utilities, and that sort of stuff. And then, so then that you receive that loan from the bank, and like you were asking the question earlier about, should you put it into a separate account? And Jamie mentioned a lot of banks are doing that. It makes a lot of sense. And then you document the use of those funds and provide that to the bank. The bank will submit that to SBA, and that loan will be forgiven. If there's any remainder that's not forgiven, it was used for a purpose that wasn't permitted or something like that, that's going to become a 2-year note. And so you'll have 2 years to pay that off at a 1% interest rate. So that's kind of the high level there. I don't know, Marcella, you want to weigh in?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. No, that was a great explanation. Thank you.
Right, well, we'll take any questions about
Yeah,
the
let's
Triple
take
P.
some questions. The questions are coming in hard and fast and furious.
I know I have some. I have lists. Sorry. So for the PPP, again, what's the time frame for approval and the payout?
Like I said, the program just started 3 days ago on Friday. Loans are being funded today. So that's, pretty fast, I'd say. But, it depends. The bank has to underwrite it. They've got to load it up into the SBA system. So, it's a little bit all over the place, and it depends on, the expertise of the bank too. And then you said so then what they're looking to do is distribute within 5 days. And then that'll kick off your 2 months, at which point it would be hopefully forgiven shortly thereafter that.
So are the banks charging any origination fees, or is that like by the bank, or is that they can't do that? Or?
No, great question. So the way the program's set up, the banks are not allowed to charge any fees for this program. SBA will pay a fee to the bank for originating the loan, but the borrowers are not to pay any fees.
Is there a, sorry, I lost my thing here. Oh, do you have to set up an auto? I don't know if this really pertains to the PPP, but for the EIDL, is there a setup for an auto repayment? Or do you have to have something in writing for repayment? Or is it just you start your payments if necessary or when necessary?
On the PPP, what we're looking at is it's a delegated program, so it's going to really be up to the bank on how they set it up. Whether they have a control account, whether they're going to require automatic debits as payments, and also whether. Anyway, and typically they're going to write their own note, or we'll give them like a standard note to use.
Okay. Is there
No payments are due on PPP for 6 months, so they're deferred for 6 months, and then on idle, they're deferred for 12 months.
Okay, good to know.
Right. And the interest doesn't start until money is dispersed.
Okay.
However, consider the disbursement soon after the loan is approved. So the process will be dispersed, deferred, forgiven, and then the note will start payment.
Okay. Is there, oh, sorry, go ahead.
So the 8 weeks starts the day that you get the money. That's the 8 weeks after that is what you're.
Origination,
yeah.
yes, it does.
So the
That's a
loan will be
great-
dispersed, and it's important to know that because interest will accrue from the day the loan is dispersed. Even though it's deferred, interest will accrue.
What if you need it? What if this all lasts longer than 8 weeks?
So right
What?
now, and that's a great question. We're getting that a lot, but right now is what we're working with what we know right now. And what the president said in talking points this weekend, what all of our elected officials across the United States, and especially ones that have been, in the major news, but we also were on a virtual roundtable with Senator Rounds earlier today, and he was talking to South Dakota small businesses. What their intent is to ride this out, but they're also looking forward, and they're saying, we might need this 4th phase, because right now we're in this phase 3 of different policy that they've had to decide on. So we have, in place, and there's plenty of money right now. So we have in place right now, these resources that we can get into the hands of small businesses, but we need you to make applications for them and get that money to you. Whether you use it or not really is up to you, but there are parameters on how you use it if you do use it. So no prepayment penalties. And for right now, there's plenty of money to, make this application and get funded. So we hope that you'll put those tools in your toolkit. And then that phase 4 is something that they're thinking about and they'll work on if we need to go there.
That's an important thing to remember is if people are using it, then Congress will know that they're using it and be able to see the trend and help determine if there's more needed.
Right. And we've gotten this question from a lot of small businesses too, the ones that, they might have their employees on unemployment already, and then they're thinking, well, maybe if I apply for this with PPP, the due date for the application is June 30th. And so they're thinking, kind of gambling, in their mind, and they're saying, well, should we just keep them on now? And then as we kind of come out of COVID, we know we're going to be hurting because we're ramping up. Should we originate at that time and then, use it so later on in June? And what we're saying is this is a first come, first serve program. And this is no time to be creative in trying to think about what's going to happen in 2 months from now. Right now, across America, we're in triage mode. That means we are in the mode of 1, keeping people employed, taking care of your employees and taking care of yourself to make sure that you can cover your basic needs, putting a roof over your head, being able to buy groceries, things like that. So we're getting these in place. So small businesses that are the major employers across the United States, even here in South Dakota, we have over 86,000 businesses that employ over 98% of people in South Dakota. So this is no time to, be creative on, well, if I use it now or if I save it till later. What we're saying is get these in place now, save your current operational cash that you might have that you might need after this runs out, because we don't know where we're going next, right? And get that tool in your toolkit. And especially since the parameters for the PPP, the P3 loan, include this forgiveness for 8 weeks. Never before have we had this wonderful product that actually is going to, it's a gift to small businesses. Why not? I mean, that's the only question really out there. Why wouldn't you take money that if you can use it to pay for your employees and then pay mortgage interest, pay your lease, or pay some utilities for 8 weeks? And if you can prove that you do that and you use it the way that it's intended to use, it's 100% forgivable. I mean, it's really something that is so user friendly, and the application process is getting a lot easier. I mean, really, actually, the application process is pretty easy. The main onus on the small business is to have your documentation ready that proves that what your payroll is, so that that's going to help the banks in that equation with you on and determining how much loan you can get. So if you only have one employee, you know, you won't be eligible to get $10 million. But if you're a small business in manufacturing, or maybe you know, a small airline industry or something like that, because there's certain ramifications, but most of the small businesses are 500 or less. But if you are employing 500 people and your monthly payroll is millions, you know, then you have to apply for a little bit bigger, you know, chunk of loan there. But again, it's going to be forgivable as long as it's within the parameters. And so it's a win-win for small businesses, and any little bit really can help. And then matching that up with EIDL loans, you know, it's a smart move.
Yeah, I think the only thing with the application is insanely easy. I think I had mine done like Thursday night and submitted it right away Friday morning, but I was emailed over the weekend by my banker because I didn't figure my employees correctly, because when I put number of employees, I just put my number of employees. And then I found out, well, okay, your part-time people, you have to figure them out this way. So I have a question regarding that, because they're really, I don't know, as far as to find those full, so if I have 10 part-time employees, how do I, off of what pay period or time period do I take to get the average number of hours worked to find then how it equivalent or gets to however many full-time people those 10 people make?
There are some caveats with that, but really what they're looking is for your annual payroll. So based off of what 2019 was. But Bryson, can you go into some specifics on how that can break down?
I'm gonna kick that over to the expert, Marcella.
Thanks a lot. No, it actually says the new language that came out this weekend actually says last calendar year divided by 12.
Okay, because I had another small business owner here locally was told that, wow, as well, and then her banker said, or is asking her how she got that number, so she was just confused and she wanted to make sure she was doing it right.
And keep in mind, this language was, we got a new language this very weekend, so you know, if you were watching Netflix, you missed it.
No, my banker emailed me. He's like, actually, you need to redo this. I'm like, okay, printed it and redid it and gave it to him an hour later. So
yeah, and I did put the link. I put the link in there for that Treasury site. I really like. I mean, we have some great sites too, but the way that they laid it out, and as Treasury is releasing information, it's all vetted between SBA and Treasury. So you're getting, you know, many doors into the same room. But what's really nice about that Treasury site that I sent you, it has several links and PDFs. So some of them are fact sheets, you know, FAQs, frequently asked questions. There's an application for the PPP loan. There's also, you know, there's a lender information sheet. Dig into that so you can see what the guidelines are for the lender. I mean, it's open to you so you can see the requirements on the lenders. And then there's a borrower sheet, you know, that requirements for the borrower. And it's really good to understand the whole, you know, arena. Plus the new legislation, the newest, because it came out over the weekend, like Marcella said, that's there too. And so you can actually get into that interim final rule for this PPP plan and the, you know, the CARES Act, and you can actually dig into that, and it's really important. Some of them are, you know, maybe 200 pages long, but all you have to do is do a control find for small business, and it'll take you right to those sections that apply to you. But there's also some other pieces in there about unemployment, you know, and other things like that. As business owners and employers, we, you know, recommend that you also dig into that. I mean, it's not going to apply to those small business loans, but you're going to learn more about that unemployment piece, you know, and some of those HR pieces too. And Department of Labor definitely has a piece in there, because we get a lot of questions about, well, you know, should I lay my employee? I talked to somebody earlier today. They said, should I lay my employees off or should I do this? You know, and that's a very personal decision that every business owner has to answer on their own. But what we're offering are these wonderful tools, EIDL and the Triple P, that you can use right now and get your employees paid for 2 more months, and you might not have to make that decision at all about laying them off. But if you can bring people back and they know that your employees know that you have their back during this time, they're going to be more apt to stay with you when you get up running full speed, okay? Because you don't want to have to start at ground zero again with hiring people.
So my question is, a lot
And as a practical matter, if I could just interject, as
Yeah,
a practical matter, when it comes to forgiveness, you're going to document what you want forgiven anyway. So whether you did it on calendar year or last fiscal year, and you took those 12 months divided by 12, you're going to document 6 months from now. So the process is disperse, defer, and then forgive. So when it comes to forgiveness, you're going to be forgiven for the amount you can document. So think of it that way.
my question was, a lot of these, everything that I've read all has the verbiage that it's over the last 12 months. Well, our coffee shop has only been open for 3 months. We opened January 1st. And so what our bookkeeper had us do was use our average from January, February, and March. Is that accurate?
Well, it sort of makes sense, except if you're seasonal, and you really just have to go. You really just have to go with your best judgment, and the rule is written last calendar year. But think about when it comes to forgiveness, it's going to be based on your documentation.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. With the PPP, how will we be notified for the approval? Is that through our bank?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They're getting it in place right now where it's starting to be a very well-oiled, wheel. And so just the metamorphosis just over the last, day even, many bankers worked throughout the weekend and they had stockpiled over the past week many applications. So they put them in because this only launched, it only opened to be able to put in applications on Friday. So they worked through the weekend, and we're already starting to hear that, many banks are already starting, and by the end of today, that many of these loans will be dispersed by the end of today. So we are anticipating today and tomorrow, there'll be a lot of payouts for these loans, but it's not going to take long now that it's getting really well oiled. Bryson, do you have anything to add on that? I know you had a great example earlier.
So, yep. So the way the loan application works is, you'll probably submit it through a teller window because you won't be able to go inside. If you've done all the certifications and they're in line and given any paperwork that you think needs to go with it, the officer will submit it electronically. They'll get an application number. If that looks okay and no adjustments were made, they'll get a loan amount that's going to be funded, and the status will be active, funded, undispersed. And at that point, the lender can disperse. So, it's just a matter now of, the number of staff people and the queue that the lender's working in.
Okay.
Now, today, the system was down, so there's that. But I think it came up again. Some lenders have been telling me they've gotten approval on loans already.
So one of my tenants is a nail salon. He is the only one that gets a salary from the salon. All of his other nail people are 1099 at the end of the year. Would he be able to do the PPP just for himself?
Yeah, the guidance that I got today was that anybody who's doing 1099s can file their own PPP.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yep. Because they're all independent contractors. Now, the thing, though, is that their application window opens this coming Friday on the 10th.
Okay.
So the small business owner can actually claim it starting as of last Friday. So he can do it right now.
Okay.
But the other ones, as independent contractors, their window for application opens up on Friday.
He said that someone told him they weren't taking applications until the 10th. And I told him, I said, no, Amanda and I did ours last week. So that makes sense.
Yeah, so just for the independent contractors,
Yeah.
that window. So yeah, and let's we really want to make sure that we, just to be respectful of your time too, want to showcase our wonderful resource partners. So they, you might have some questions about how, just your decision cycle or how to take a look at your business development plan going forward. So Michelle Kane would really love to showcase SDCO real quick, and then we'll move over to SCORE.
Sure. Thanks, Jamie. Well, just so you all know, even though we're located here in Spearfish, we do cover the state, and where our real expertise is on kind of what's next. So now that you have applied for this, now that you are keeping your employees, now that you're doing this, how do we start to rethink this new way of work? So that's where we can help. That's where we can help brainstorm, whether it's some marketing or PR strategies, lots of online strategies. That's what we're talking about now. And as Jamie has mentioned, people are looking for opportunities right now, and there are opportunities. So I would just like to share that as a resource. I'll put my email in the chat box so you all have it. We do free and confidential business advising sessions, and so we're here to help you. So just be aware of that. And, we're just trying to get the word out and make sure that you all know that there are resources. There's, this is part of our recovery, but part of the recovery is looking forward to and looking at opportunities. So just great to be here. So thanks so much, Jamie. And I'll put my email in there. So would welcome any calls or contact. So thanks.
Michelle and I, and also Del Carver, have been talking a lot about holding some of these what's next business sessions, like business builder sessions, just to talk about different things. We want people to, part of staying healthy through this is not just being protected from COVID-19, but also taking care of our mental and spiritual health as far as business, and looking towards the future. And so part of that is just getting back in the saddle and thinking about the business tools that can be used, how to protect yourself from scams, and how to keep your, cybersecurity secure, how to grow in times of change and things like that, how to get out of a rut doing the same sorts of, making the same type of widget year after year, and now innovating and moving to this way, how to increase your marketing, things like that. So we have some great resources that provide many tools for you, and one of them is SCORE. So Del Carver, he's calling out of Fargo Moorhead area right now, but Del is our state district director for South Dakota for SCORE. And Del, tell us about the amazing tools that SCORE offers.
SCORE is the largest all-volunteer organization of business mentors in the United States. We have over 300 chapters with about 11,000 volunteers across the country, serve 500 plus communities. And I guess that, the first thing I'd tell you, if you're in a business, you should find a mentor. It doesn't have to be SCORE, it doesn't have to be the Women's Business Center, it doesn't have to be the SBDC, it doesn't have to be the SBA, but you should find somebody to talk to who has business experience, to bounce your ideas off, get some input. And don't try to do it by yourself. And time after time, all of the surveys show that people who have mentors are more successful than people who do not. Now, the other thing is, most of us are retired. I've seen 3 or 4 recessions myself. So this isn't the first time I've seen one of these. And I think that the biggest thing that I would tell any small business right now is, what's your plan? You've got a couple of things. Number one, preserve all the cash you can right now. Okay. 2, what can you do to cut your business expenses? There's 2 ways to preserve cash. Don't spend it. Okay. And don't buy stuff. Keep it in the mattress, put it in a coffee can, something. Only spend what you have to spend. Okay. Secondly, there's lots of these business. I'm amazed at how fast the federal government, the SBA, is moving on these relief programs. It is off. I know there are lots of frustrated bankers. There's lots of frustrated small businessmen. This is light speed for the federal government and the SBA. And hats off, to how they have responded to all this. But you get the money. Even before you get the money, how much do you need? Why do you need it? Okay. Secondly, is what is your business going to look like on the backside of this, on what we call the bounce? Okay, so you should be talking to somebody about, are you going to do something stupid that will prevent you from expanding on the bounce? Because virtually in every recession, every past recession, the businesses that plan to and have a plan and know how to contact their customers, find new customers, spend money on marketing right now, become successful. They're more successful than the people that do not. And I guess, you know, if I was going to leave that with you, you can go to www.score.org. That's our website. There are tons and tons of information on that website to teach you how to do business plans, to teach you how to work with employees, work through HR issues, all those kinds of things. Cash flow planning templates are all there. So, you know, I would say we've got like, you know, we've got a lot. The other thing I would tell you finally is there's 11,000 of us. So there's probably not too many businesses we don't have somebody that has experience in. And, you know, I've connected people with people in New York and Chicago and Los Angeles and Silicon Valley. I have some people in South Dakota that I'm working with. But final thing, don't try to do it by yourself. We got lots of good people with lots of good experience through, you know, SBA funds us, the partnerships, the SBDCs, all of us are there to help. Utilize the resource because it's free. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Mark, are you on the line? Okay, I see some numbers there, but I wasn't sure if Mark Slade was. So Mark Slade is the State Director for the Small Business Development Center Network, SBDC. Maybe you've heard of them. There's one located here in Sioux Falls and the Zeal Center for Entrepreneurship. Although they have many offices across the state. Right now, they are all working from home, and they are able to help you with that high level of technical assistance, like really fancy spreadsheets for financial projections, market analysis, price points on your cups of coffee, you know, things like that. And they are a wonderful resource to use, along with the guidance of, you know, SCORE and the Women's Business Center. We also have a Veteran Business Outreach Center too that serves both North Dakota and South Dakota. So if you have any veteran businesses in Brandon, or maybe you are veteran business owners, there are extra resources that are available for veterans as well. So do you have any questions that maybe we haven't covered or you want a deeper dive on? And we are, you know, we're here, we're an email away, so glad to answer anything you have.
There was just one last quick one. Are people who are, let me see, if a part-time employee has already applied for unemployment, will they still be able to be added in the PPP? Yes.
Yeah, my understanding is, you know, if they've applied for unemployment and you bring them back on board, you know, now they're on salary, right? Again. Now, again, as Burl was saying, no government agency, no government around wants them to double dip, right? So they, you know, they need to let the unemployment office know that they're back on staff,
Okay.
and that, you know, and hopefully they come back on staff, and we're up and running again permanently, and they won't go back on unemployment again. Hopefully that's how it works out.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I think if you're going to have an obligation to that employee to pay them as a business owner, then you would be able to mark that as something that you can request. The balancing out, the final accounting will take care as time goes on.
Okay.
Take care of what you would be accountable for, particularly with the state and the Fed in terms of employment. So if you say, okay, you're an employee now, well, you have taxes, you have retirement, you have all of those things that you have to report as a business owner, and you're responsible for that. Yeah, I'm sure it can be worked out after the fact.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you guys so much for jumping on this and doing this with us, especially with such short notice.
Thank you for,
Welcome.
reaching out. Yeah, and we're here for you. So, we can do this as much as you need to. And, we're glad to get you connected to those other resource partners too, that we, highlighted today with SCORE and SBDC and WBC and some of them too. Burrell's information is in the chat. We actually pasted a lot into the chat for contact information, and maybe you're familiar with, but Zoom, it's really easy to copy the chat and to get that information, spread out. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to talk, and we really hope that you're gonna take advantage of these, resources. They're friendly to small businesses, and there's not any prepayment penalty. So it's kind of a, win-win for small businesses right now, but we're here to support you. So thanks so much.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you guys all for including us in this. And also for Ellison and Amanda, SCORE actually is a chamber member.
Oh, cool.
So if you guys need their contact information and like the reps that we have contacts with, I can shoot that over to you.
That's awesome. Thanks, Rachel.
Yes, perfect.
Thank you guys so much.
Awesome.
Thank you. Nice
Thanks,
to meet all of
everybody.
you.
Take care. Hang in there. We're gonna get through this.
Thank
That's
you.
right.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Oh, where's that? There it is. So does this,